and welcome back. So, who do we save? Who do we set free? That's the question. Go save Amaya and take her along. We could free the Hufflepuffs here. Everyone's sufficiently distracted. Save the Fays. I think you could probably guess who I'm going to choose. Like I said, this will have consequences in the future. Not necessarily bad consequences, but someone will potentially call you out on it. Of course, if you don't necessarily care about that person, then that's one thing. But it also allows me to talk about something in the transcript that comes up later. Soon. But later. Let's do this.
You guys better go. I'd stay and make sure the other prisoners are fed.
But isn't Bramble...
Oh, I'm pregnant, not handicapped. Move your feet. Oh, and thanks, Big Boo.
You're welcome, my little sugar cube.
I'm pregnant, not handicapped is also just a really good line.
I was off to seek an audience with the Goblin King. If I could get my hands on his key, perhaps I could set the other prisoners free.
Hold up. Did you have a particular reason for choosing Bramble?
She had given so much compassion to the world, it was time to give some back to her.
Exactly.
But the Hobblepots could have whipped up a potion to take all those rock bottoms out.
You weren't get the Hufflepuffs earlier, guard.
Would you mind calling for a guard to carry her off to bed?
But, Grandfather, I'd like to hear more.
Which part did you like the best? The mischievous goblins? Or the interrupting boy who wanted to tell a different story?
Oh, I was enjoying the goblins. Absolutely, I was. I just wanted to show you that I could...
I think it's best to call it a night. The storm has calmed down, and so has she.
But, Grandfather,
Guard,
I just wanted to...
this is not a time for debating. Go to bed. We can continue in the morning.
As you wish. Good night.
Guard, wait. Sorry, I didn't mean to snap. These elixirs have my nerves on edge.
It's okay, Grandfather. And thank you. I do still have a lot to learn from your stories.
Sweet dreams, Guard. Sleep well.
That I can do with my eyes closed.
Ha! Now you're learning.
There. That's our ticket out.
Not sure I like this idea.
Oh, go ahead. Stay back.
I wasn't sure if I could get her across, but she needed to believe I could.
So, that Gart scene. That is a very much controversial scene in this game.
Go. Right.
People look at that and they just see
Right.
Graham just being a jerk with no consequence.
Forward.
But like, think about it from Graham's perspective. He's sick.
Left.
He's frustrated with how Gart's acting.
Left.
He has been nothing but critical to him.
Forward.
He has every right to be mad at him. I would be mad too, especially if I was being told, yeah, the thing that you did in your past in order to resolve this problem, I would have done something different. And also, people say, oh, he never does it with Gwendolyn. Yes, he does.
Left.
Like, there was a whole big thing about their banter, and the fact
Forward.
in the previous chapter that
Right.
if he did a decision, if she did a decision that he wasn't favorable to, he would call her out on it.
Forward.
He would tell her, no, I am not doing that. He's just doing this a little bit harshly with Gart. And also, there is a stark difference between telling someone, I think you did this, versus I would have done something differently. You making decisions for Graham is different from you criticizing the fact that the story actually happened.
Left. Right. Right. Left. Left. Right.
And it's also, you know, again, a reflection of how you, the player, are supposed to be viewing these things.
Forward.
Thanks, Your Majesty.
Quick! In my cape! No time to explain!
Oh dear. Are you finally going to confront the monster of our nightmares? Oh dear, where are they running from? What? Oh.
Nightmares come in many forms. Once you realize what you are actually afraid of, you can start to deal with the fear.
Mm-hmm.
Just in my head. It's not gonna work. I'm not afraid of you.
Oh dear. Who opened the
I figured
cellar?
After that scream, you'd be back. Let's pick up our story once again. I wasn't actually afraid of dragons. I was still struggling with the loss of a chakra. Now, my decisions meant the life or death of a kingdom. That's the true beast I needed to wrestle with.
Oh, it's you again. And you're the one who took away my hat. How dare you? Huh. Come on out, little guy. Yes, be frightened.
I didn't need to wear his crown to be a great king. My old hat suited me just fine, and Daventry was ready for a new adventure.
Good for you. You're finally coming into your own. Excellent. So, this ending area seems to be progressing fairly fast, isn't it? Like, it seems almost like we're rushing our way right toward the castle a little bit. That's because, unfortunately, according to a transcript, there was going to be a whole second half of this that was unfortunately cut. Remember how I mentioned at the beginning of this chapter that we were talking about the whole acorn versus whisper thing? In terms of your opening choices? That's because originally, they were set to appear, actually, in this chapter. Somewhere in between the initial escape and getting to the throne room, you would encounter them. There would be a split path, and you would have to choose either Whisper or Acorn. And in particular, depending on your escape companion, they would be more so favorable towards one side or the other. If you chose Bramble or Chester, they would choose Acorn, and you'd be teaming up with him in order to resolve puzzles and such. Acorn, I believe, was going to be in jail first, and then he was going to show up in like a scenario where just like he would be like the giant from Jack and the Beanstalk, which is great. Whisper, I don't know what in the world he was supposed to be doing, actually. I couldn't find any evidence as to what his puzzle was going to be. But Acorn was gonna be that, so that was pretty cool. And like Graham would have to dress up as Jack and like try to quote unquote defeat Acorn. Sounds like. But what's also interesting is the fact that Chester and Bramble would actually have little idle conversations. While in Graham's inventory. And Acorn would talk to Bramble about the fact that, you know, I'm gonna make like little rainbow booties for your kid. And he would discuss with Chester about, hey, I'm thinking maybe if you're fixing on retiring soon, maybe I could open up my own little place in your shop. And also, Chester would not exactly be too keen about that because of the way that he does art. But, you know, he would concede on it eventually, as we will soon see. And as for Amaya and Whisper, Whisper would kind of reveal that he's kind of attracted to Amaya. He likes her. And Amaya would kind of loosen up around him a little bit. And like, hey, if you want to come work for me, if you want to be my apprentice, I could like teach you how to like make like proper armor for yourself. And like so they would start to become partners in that way. I'm so sad that whole sequence was cut. Because that could have been really, really cool for like character development and foreshadowing for the next chapter. As we see, some of those elements actually are a thing, actually in chapter 3, but they kind of come out of nowhere. Well, okay, I guess Acorn taking over the Health Plus shop, I guess technically was mentioned back in chapter 1, but that's like an optional line. If you just use a certain item on him, that's what he says. He's just like, yeah, I'll open up a shop. Right next to the Hugger and the Crumbler. Like aside from that, that's not really gone over until this. That's really interesting. So, what is the #1 story? Who is the best person in the library? Who is their #1 bard? Their storyteller? Yeah. He's back. He's always been down here, hasn't he? Huh. Goblin language. I guess you could probably, like... You could probably, like, parse out a bit of an alphabet for this, actually. That's pretty cool.
Once, in a town just like the one you're imagining, there was a beautiful castle that stood high on a hill. All were welcome here. Well, everyone except for the pests. The townspeople cried out to their king, "We must be rid of these rats! They're scaring our children and stealing our cheese. One even ate a baby." The town had become very unpleasant indeed. Every morning, gold coins clanged through the water well carrying wishes for a better town, but the rats remained.
Huh. Coins in a water well. And one of those people looks suspiciously a lot like Bramble. Interesting.
The king, in his finite wisdom, had also been casting wishes, for he desperately needed a plan.
Hey. That picture looks kind of familiar.
As wishes would have it, a wandering piper appeared at the castle gates.
Huh. And he's dressed in green, I see.
The piper offered to expel the rats from the kingdom if the town would overthrow their moronic liege. "Hear, hear," they cried out. "Our throne is but a seat for a hat rack. Rid us of these pests, and the throne is where you'll rest." The stranger pulled out a small flute and played a pleasing melody. The music summoned the rats out of hiding, and they danced on the head of the king.
Rats. Carry misfortune. Carry disease. Troublemakers, obviously.
The king shrieked a high-pitched squeal, but the piper continued his song. The rats were led back to the wooded forest where they belonged.
Artwork is beautiful, by the way. Did a good job, Manny. More with than one.
The piper returned to the castle to claim his reward, but his knock echoed throughout the halls, and no one let him in. He raised his pipe, and a new melody was played. He watched the drawbridge lower, and a mesmerized kingdom pranced to his side. With a few simple notes and a turn on the heel, the stranger led them from the castle to the deep, dark caverns below. The throne is now empty, and the well doesn't clang anymore.
Manny knew exactly what to write to incite the horde. He chose every word carefully, fully knowing how the goblins would react to his story. Oh, it was brilliant. They did all the dirty work, and he just sat back and watched. I thought I had bested him in the duel of wits, but the mind games were just beginning.
So you all remember last time where I mentioned that, like, oh, are they doing fairy tales that are like sanitized and Victorian, or are they going for something a little bit darker, or are they going for something a little more mixed? Well, I think Manny kind of planned this out deliberately. The simpler tales are probably a distraction, a way to keep busy. But stories like this, like the Pied Piper, a variation on the Pied Piper, just deliberately Daventry themed. That's the real meat of all this. That's why they're invading the surface. That's why they're bothering people. And of course, it's very Manny centralized. Of course, he's considered the hero in all this. And the goblins are represented by the rats. You don't want to be considered pests, do you? You want to rule. At any cost. It's good propaganda. It's very, very good at propaganda. It's very good at inciting people, as Graham says. But what does this mean for Manny as a character? We don't necessarily know all that much about what his life was like before Chapter 1, do we? It could very well have been that he did try to reach out to the king and, try to ingratiate himself within the court, and he failed. It could very well be that he just sanitizing his own story, in a way. He tried to gain respect for his people, tried to convince them, look, see? Goblins aren't all bad. But they refused to listen, and so he struck back. And a theory that I've always had is the fact that I don't think that king image is Graham. You might be thinking, well, maybe he just wants to portray Graham as a buffoon, because to him he is. But the thing is, Graham has only been king for a very, 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 very short time. Like a year, canonically speaking. People haven't really had much time to really get used to how he rules much. They can't really form an opinion on him because he's very new at his job. This is all a big change, a big shift. But Edward, oh boy, Edward. Edward, on the other hand, was not very well liked. His legacy was tarnished in his later years. To quote Graham, Daventry was a mess. People wishing for a better town? Well, remember how in Chapter 1, how there were no coins at the bottom of the well initially, but by the time the prologue starts 5 years later, there are a bunch? Well, that kind of implied that Daventry had gotten worse since Graham became a knight, and they were desperate for any sort of change whatsoever. But that's all very interesting. Ah. Oh, you may toss it away. You may consider that ridiculous, but I don't. Oh. Oh, this is another thing that they cut, unfortunately. Ram just tossing that aside is rather interesting because there was going to be, according to the transcript, narration from Graham whenever he would interact with this. Hang on, let me find it for you exactly. Found it. According to the transcript, this is what they say about the Goblin book here. Growing up outside of Daventry, many tales were shared about the world around us. Some real, some legend, others purely superstition. But with every day I spent in Daventry, it seemed that more tales were coming true. I couldn't help but wonder about changelings. The goblins were carelessly compulsive creatures. Nothing could stop them once they decided to bring a story to light. Or would they really trade a baby of their own for a human? When a baby cries too much, doesn't sleep, and has an altogether dislikable disposition, it is not long before the parents wonder what they should do. Many seek assistance from friends and family, whereas others might seek out the fairies. A trip to the forest is often all it takes. A call out to the creatures within to make them aware that change is desired. If the creatures agree, they shall swap one of their own to live a human life, while they will deal with the difficult child. A relationship that is best for both. Each will be raised by their new families, in lives unexpected and unconventional. Whether they will find their original families again, is up to the changelings themselves. Just as I expected. Album prank number 573297. 293, sorry. The baby swap. I'd never heard of a child in Daventry going missing before. Perhaps Mourn's parents heard the company of a goblin. Goblin babies do have a tendency to go to bed on time and rarely cry. So that's all really interesting. And I'm so sad that lore was cut because it's kind of relevant to something that's going to show up later in a later chapter. Let's go. Oh.
Do nightmares ever come true?
Of course, but real monsters are far easier to deal with than imaginary ones.
I suppose technically you are right, because technically speaking, your mind is a very, very, very powerful thing. It can make things far worse. At least with real monsters you can negotiate. At least with real monsters you can fight back.
Ugh. Goblins ruin everything.
And there's Mr. Fancy Cakes. And you notice there's a lot of Cinderella shoe props in there. There's also like another music box. There's another hobby horse in there. There's more beds, because that's actually where you would find everyone else that they gotten taken away. It's not actually possible to like lose everyone in a single run. Like, you had to take somebody. Someone will always be left behind, because Graham will refuse to sleep until you help them. But those beds would be filled with more than just Mr. Pancakes if you did a very bad job with taking care of people. And I think that people disregard this chapter a lot because of that. because of how stressful that all can be. But as I hope as I showed you, it's not really that bad. Not that stressful. And like, you have to like kind of go out of your way in order to lose people, unless you're playing like super badly. Also, the book mentioned mourn. That very tall, very lanky goblin that we saw like thrice. The one who just picked up the book just now? That is Morden. And he was originally going to have a much bigger role according to transcript. Or at the very least, they were going to team up more. They were going to team up on some sort of puzzle or something, and he would actually talk to Graham and, like, you know, kind of foster a little bit of a friendship between the two of them. A little bit of a bond. Which is very nice. But also, there would be some sort of situation that would eventually lead into Graham leaving him behind, ironically enough. And Morden will remember that. I don't think Graham intended to do it. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy. But still, it is interesting, given future chapters. But we're close to the throne room.
This hardest.
Distress! Help us, King! Enough! They're only stories. Can't you just enjoy them for what they are? You've missed the point entirely. Is this how you want your story to be remembered?
What about you?
Wait. How about a new story? Once upon a time, there lived, let me see what I got here. Let me try that again. There lived,
I love the Zelda reference. The spin is very good.
There lived a sweet little goblin who loved adventures.
Parallel. Aww. What a friend.
Even in his young age, stories of the goblin's quests had spread around the land. Like the time he...
The guards being pigs is the very nice subtle joke. Not just from the Fairytale reference, but literally the fact that these are the guards. I don't know. I just find that mildly funny.
Bear hugged a basilisk.
Can't hug you all at once.
No, that can't be right. Wait a minute here.
I'm sure you can take on 3 people at once.
Evil
Nope.
Lord. No, that can't be right. Wait a minute here.
I have to admit, bear hugging a basilisk, that's pretty darn brave, I have to admit. But like, it's obviously not the option that we need to do. Outsmart a critical griffin, however, is how we're telling the story correctly.
outsmarted a quizzical griffin. In fact, his adventures were so legendary, the goblins decided to make him king. But the goblin adventurer was out of his element and overwhelmed with the work it took to run a successful kingdom. His friends offered their...
Aww. You scared, little buddy?
heart. But it wasn't enough. He was afraid he would never live up to the king who came before. It got so bad that the goblin gave up. But when packing up his things to run away from the castle, the goblin found... He found...
You found your confidence.
his old adventurer cap.
You start your own legacy.
And the goblin realized that he wasn't just here to continue the previous legacy. He was here to create his own. One filled with...
Best ending.
compassion. And the best group of friends you could ever ask for.
Oh, they just frightened me that he just was a friend.
I shall call you King Nibbletooth the Third. Grandpa's gotta hear about this.
Told you he'd save us.
No, I told you he'd save us.
I think it was me, actually.
You know, I'm not even sure anymore.
All right, Mr. Fancy Cakes, a river barachi!
And that's my story. Some of the details might have changed over the years, and I certainly left out some parts I wasn't fond of. But I found it's best to enjoy stories for what they are, and not for what you hoped they would be.
That's a good message.
Ah, you've fallen asleep again, and I think it's time I do the same.
You looked like you could use a friend.
Yeah, but not you. Get an achievement for getting all the coins. You get an achievement for making sure that nobody was taken away, and you get an achievement for reuniting the merchant with Mr. Fancy Cakes. And you would also get an achievement for getting all 3 pages, but unfortunately, of course, you can't do that without sacrificing Bramble, as I've already mentioned. You'd also get an achievement in the previous chapter for doing other side quests correctly. So just keeping the gate closed, making sure the potion is correct, and also making sure that when he has a nice date. Or at least that was the original plan. Seems like there technically is no real consequence to messing up the date, technically. But it feels like there really was going to be, given the fact he's holding a ring in the previous chapter. But anyway, let's watch the credits roll again. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you again soon. Of course, the story has to continue on. And next time, we begin my favorite chapter of the whole game. See you all tomorrow. It's gonna be fun.